You wake up when your body is done sleeping. No alarm, no meeting, no one waiting on a report. For 99% of the time your species has existed, this was simply Tuesday. There was no word for job, because there was no such thing. Yet somehow your ancestors ate, raised children, healed wounds, and passed down enough knowledge to put you here. So what exactly did they do all day? Start with a number that should bother you. The average modern adult spends around 90,000 hours of their life at work. Your hunter-gatherer ancestors, by the best estimates anthropologists can make, spent a fraction of that securing food. And they were not starving. They were, by several measures, doing fine. In 1963, an anthropologist named Richard Lee went to live among the Jahonsi, a group of San people in the Kalahari Desert of southern Africa. They were still living largely by hunting and gathering, the way humans had for hundreds of thousands of years. Lee did something simple. He counted. He tracked exactly how much time people spent finding food. The answer surprised everyone. Adults spent roughly 15 to 20 hours a week getting food. That is it, 2 to 3 hours a day on average, to feed themselves and their families. The rest of the day belonged to them. Let that sit for a second. People living in one of the harshest deserts on Earth, with no farms, no stores, and no money, worked less than half the hours you do. And the anthropologist Marshall Sahlins took Lee's findings, combined them with others, and gave it a name that stuck. He called these societies the original affluent society. Not affluent because they had a lot, affluent because they wanted little and got it easily. So what filled the other hours? This is the part that gets lost. The absence of jobs did not mean an absence of work. It meant the work was different. Your ancestors did not separate labor from life. There was no clock that started and stopped your worth. There was just the day, and the things the day asked of you. Some of it was food. A man might walk out at dawn to track an animal, reading bent grass and broken twigs the way you read a road sign. Hunting was unpredictable. He might come back with nothing 4 days in a row. But here is the detail people forget. In most foraging groups, hunting provided the excitement and the prestige, while gathering provided most of the actual calories. Roots, nuts, berries, tubers, honey. The reliable food came from women walking known ground, reading the land, digging with a sharpened stick. Quiet, skilled, constant work that fed everyone. But food was maybe 2 or 3 hours. What about the rest? A staggering amount of it was talk. The anthropologist Polly Wiessner studied the Jahonsi for decades, and she made a striking discovery about their conversations. During the day, people talked about practical things: land, weather, who was where, what tools needed fixing. But at night around the fire, the talk changed completely. Wiessner found that roughly 80% of nighttime conversation was stories. Tales of distant people, myths, gossip about who did what, who married whom, who broke a rule. The fire extended the day, and that extended day became the place where culture lived. Think about what that means. Your ancestors did not have schools, libraries, or written law. The work of holding a society together, teaching children how to behave, settling disputes, passing on which plant kills and which plant heals, all of it happened in conversation. Storytelling was not entertainment. It was the operating system of the group. And there was another kind of work that almost never shows up in our modern accounting. The work of making things beautiful. Go deep into the caves of southern France, to a site called Chauvet, and you find paintings of lions and horses and rhinos that are around 36,000 years old. Someone climbed into the dark with a torch and pigment and spent hours doing this. Go to Blombos cave in South Africa, studied for years by the archaeologist Christopher Hinchelwood, and you find pieces of ochre carved with deliberate crosshatch patterns more than 70,000 years ago, and shell beads strung as ornaments. None of this fed anyone. None of it kept off the cold. It was made because humans, given free hours, make meaning. Your ancestors had the time to be artists. That tells you how much time they actually had. So let's reconstruct a day. Picture yourself there. You wake at first light, no clock, just the change in the sky. The camp is small, maybe 20 or 30 people, most of them relatives in some way. You eat leftover food from yesterday. Some of the group decides to go gather, because someone spotted a good patch of nuts 2 days ago. You go with them. You walk for an hour, talking the whole way, and you spend a couple of hours filling a leather bag. Your children playing nearby, learning by watching. By early afternoon you are back. The hottest part of the day is for rest. People nap. They repair tools. A man renapping a stone blade. A woman twisting plant fiber into cord. Someone is telling a story to a circle of kids. There is no boss. No one is checking your output. The work that needs doing gets done because the group needs it. And you are the group. As the sun drops, the fire is built. People drift toward it. Food is shared. And sharing is not optional kindness here. It is the law of survival. And then the night talk begins. The myths, the laughter, the gossip, the deep stories that have been told for 1,000 years. You fall asleep when you are tired. There is no reason not to. Now here is the twist, and it is a big one. You might assume this was a primitive life that humans were desperate to escape, and that farming and jobs were the upgrade. The evidence says nearly the opposite. When humans began farming around 12,000 years ago, in places like the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East, life in many ways got worse, not better. The archaeologists and the bones agree. Skeletons from early farming villages show shorter heights, more tooth decay, more disease, more spinal damage from repetitive grinding labor than the foragers who came before them. The scientist Jared Diamond wrote a famous essay calling agriculture the worst mistake in the history of the human race. That sounds extreme, but look at what farming did. It tied you to one spot. It made you dependent on one or two crops. So a single bad harvest meant starvation, something mobile foragers rarely faced, because they could simply move to where the food was. Farming let populations explode, which meant more mouths, which meant more relentless labor. Farming created surplus, and surplus could be stored, and stored wealth could be owned, and owned wealth could be taken. The whole machinery of bosses, hierarchy, taxes, and endless work was not human nature. It was a consequence. The job was born here, in the grain field, not in the wild. The anthropologist James Suzman, who spent years with the same Jahonsi that Lee studied, makes this point sharply in his work. For the overwhelming majority of human existence, people did not live to work. They worked lightly in order to live, and then they stopped. The idea that a human being should fill most of their waking hours with labor, that being busy is virtuous, that your worth is measured in output, is not ancient wisdom written into your bones. It is recent. It is a few thousand years old at most, and the assembly line in the office made it far worse. So now look at your own day. You wake to an alarm, cutting your sleep short before your body is finished. You work 8, 9, 10 hours, often at tasks disconnected from anything you can see or touch. You eat alone at a desk. You come home tired, and the deep conversation, the fire talk, the storytelling that your ancestors had every single night, you might get a fraction of it, often through a screen, often with strangers. You are not lazy when you crave rest. You are not broken when long hours leave you hollow. You are running ancient software in a world it was never written for. The part of you that wants to wake naturally, to work in bursts and then stop, to spend hours simply talking with people you love, that part is not a flaw. It is the oldest and most human thing about you. Your ancestors did not have jobs. What they had was time. Time to know every person around them deeply. Time to teach their children themselves. Time to sit by a fire and tell the stories that made them who they were. They were not waiting for the weekend. There was no weekend, because there was nothing to escape from. So the next time you wake before your body is ready, dragged up by a sound your ancestors never heard, into a day shaped by people you will never meet, remember what came before. For 99% of human history, you woke when your body was done sleeping, and the whole long day was yours.